Hello, welcome today. Relationships, we're going to talk about really quite a difficult subject. When you get to the part in your relationship where you don't know whether to stay or to go, I always call it crossing, when you have to cross the next bridge and you have to decide whether you're going to cross the bridge together. If you have a long-term relationship, I had one which was like 43 years, you will have this happen quite regularly if you've got a tempestuous relationship or where you're both very strong people in the relationship. And you're not to be frightened of it, because what happens is you'll get to a bit and you have to grow again, and it's almost like you reinvent the relationship. So within the one long relationship you might have 5 or 6 relationships, and that's why some people will stay in a relationship, because they keep reinventing it and they keep getting to the bridge and then having to compromise and find ways to get across the bridge to the next section. When you love each other very much, it's actually worth getting to the bridge and just not aborting. It's worth thinking about what you can do if you really love each other and you actually kind of want to be together, but you can't make it work right now, and ways you can affect that so you can get a better outcome than just like splitting up completely. I see whether to go or whether to stay as a choice, but sometimes within that choice you need to have some space and some distance perhaps to make that choice. So I don't see that having a separation is necessarily a bad thing. When we have got to the stage where we don't know what to do, or one of us doesn't know whether they want to be in it anymore or not, you'll have a lot of emotion. And the problem with that much emotion is that all that emotion, and often it'll be like being upset or being angry, or you'll be frightened too. You'll have some fear around it. So these emotions can really affect you. Truth is that when our emotions are running high, we usually make bad decisions, because we have no rationale with it and we're just riding on our emotions. So I encourage you not to make a decision when you're really upset, and get some space. Now, space can mean within the same household that you live in. If you feel like you need to have a little bit of a separation, go back to mum's or go and live with your friend for a week. Whatever works for you, or let your partner do likewise. It's better off to have a bit of separation where you can both cool down, settle down, and not be with each other, not be in that same energy. So when you come back in, you're creating like a new energetic connection with each other. I think that many couples have this happen. They see it maybe as a failure. I don't. I see it as growth. I see that you reach an impasse. You can't figure it out. You both go back to your own camps, and then you come back, and then you maybe make some compromise. Perhaps one of you has to change something, or both of you, then you do that, and then you move to the next phase. Because basically, if you really love each other a lot and you have a lot of love, to just let it go is really hard, and it's going to be pretty devastating not being together. Having said that, there are some situations which you have to consider. If you're in an abusive situation, then you need to keep yourself safe, and if that means you can't be with the person anymore, well, that's just how it'll be. But you'll know how to keep yourself safe, and there's lots of places that you can go to and help that you can get with that. Today I'm talking about a non-abusive relationship, a normal relationship where there's no abuse. I'm just talking about when you hit the next bridge and you have to decide to cross or not, and I'm telling you, do not make a decision while your emotions are high. Separate, go away, do whatever you want to do, and then decide together. Sometimes one person decides earlier than the other, and you need to give time for that, because if some people come to a conclusion more quickly, or if they're not the injured person, it's easier for them to come to a conclusion. If you're the injured person, it's going to take you time to get over the hurt and the anger, or whatever the emotion is that you're going through now in the relationship. But remember that as much as we have good relationships with good emotions, we're going to sort of have relationships that are good, but they have bad emotions in them too. By being away and not near them, or not having any contact, gives everyone time to regroup, to decide what is important, and to actually live a life without one another. And that actually is good for you, because then you get a little taste of what it would feel like not to be together. I think if you're going to have a separation, you should probably have like a proper one, where you don't talk perhaps for a few days or whatever, just to give you that sense of what would it be like to not have the person in your life. Initially you might find it really good because you've been fighting a lot, So you just need give me some time out. But after a while, you'll probably start to miss them and want to be with them and want to be together again. And that means that your love's still very, very strong. Loving someone doesn't mean it's always easy. People think you fall in love and it's always easy, but it isn't. We're people and we've all got opinions and things we want to do or don't do. And then we have all the other stuff that's outside, the external stuff that's hitting into the relationship too. And you need to be aware of that. Is this an internal problem or is this an external problem? And if it's an external problem, fix that external problem as quickly as possible. If it's internal, it might take more work. You can go and have counselling, get professional help if you think that's going to get you across the line. The whole thing is, if you want to stay together and you want to be together still, then you need to do whatever it takes to get you across the next bridge. Because once you're over the bridge, you've done that work, your relationship will be better. Because whatever brought that up into the big thing that you've just had, stay or go, that decision you have to make, that also has also brought you over the bridge now to a new relationship. Sometimes you can't make a decision. You'll be in no man's land and you don't know, and you can still go back and cross the bridge and then just see how it goes. Not everything's completely clear. Sometimes when you're in these things, you don't know how you'll react. But do understand that if you're very hurt or upset and angry, that emotion is that's going to make it harder to be with them, quite literally, unless there's some compensation for you and they make amends or say they're sorry for whatever has occurred, or you will have to do the same. You'll have to make amends and say you're sorry and then not do it again, basically, because that's the thing. You can't make a promise and then not do it again, because you'll break the trust. And once you break the trust in the relationship, in some ways I think that's harder to fix than the love part. The love can keep beeping along, but the breaking the trust seems to fracture most relationships, and not all relationships can get past it. Sometimes they just can't stick it back together, so to speak. I agree with fighting for your relationship, but not at the detriment of you. So you also have to work out how this is impacting on you and whether it's healthy for you to be in this relationship. If the other person doesn't want to change, then maybe it's not a healthy choice for you. And I always talk about healthy and unhealthy choices in relationships, because of our choices. Sometimes they start healthy, but they end up being quite unhealthy. It's insidious. We don't notice it at first, but it comes more and more. Don't just throw it all away. If you love each other a lot and you've got a lot going on, it's just for one or two things, and see if you can fix it, because then you don't have any regret. If you go back and you feel like you're safe with that person, obviously it's not abusive, and you go back in and you manage to fix it, then you can move on and not have to have the devastation of the breakup, because the breakup will be devastating. And because when you break up with one person, then it often makes a problem for the next person who's coming along and has to go out with you, because you've got all your baggage if you can't let go of it. If you value the relationship, it's worth fighting for it in this way and getting help, as I've said earlier. And if you're the person who's wrecked it and broken it, then you need to fix it. And you have to fix it in a way that they need it to be fixed, not how you want it to be fixed. People often want to do it their way, but in these situations, you have to meet the need of the other person to fix it. And then you have to not do that again. That's the most important thing. You can't keep doing the same thing to them over and over again and expect that they will stay, because one day they will actually walk and they'll not cross the bridge with you, and that'll be over. So it's in your hands, because how we treat people is a choice we make. You can't blame your childhood, your parents, or even your depression. You can't blame that on treating people badly. They're actually separate to that. They might be a reason you've chosen to do it this way, but it's not an excuse, because you're a grown-up now and you can behave well and treat people well and know when to speak and know when not to say nasty things. And you're the owner of your mouth, so what comes out your mouth, you own that. So if you don't say nasty, mean things to people, that's a good choice. It's really all up to you whether you want to stay or go. Just be aware that you might be very clear to stay, and you can change your mind a bit later on. So leave that door open. Don't completely close it, and let everything settle down, and maybe get back together. See what each person is prepared to do to have another go at it and cross the next bridge. Just don't throw it away, because love doesn't come to all of us easily. And if we want to be in love, we have to do some of the hard work too. Having said that, if you don't think it's healthy for you anymore and there's going to be no change, then I think you need to have a separation and possibly end it. It's no good staying in something where you're going to be unhappy and it will be unhealthy, because then you'll get to the next bridge fairly quickly. The bridges will come up fast. And that's actually a sign. If you keep having shorter and shorter intervals to get to the bridge, probably the relationship kind of is on the way out. You've outgrown it, or they've outgrown it, and it's whatever it was doing before, it's not doing anymore. I'm wishing you good luck with this one. It's very hard and it's very confusing, but it can have a very good solution if you cross the bridge and compromise and fix it. And actually, even leaving now, saying I've done enough bridges with you and leaving, it is a good decision for you to make. So take care of yourself through the process. Let the emotions die down. Have some time out. And if you come back together, see if you can make amends. Because that's also part of the forgiveness, isn't it? To forgive the other person, or both of you, so that you can move on. So I'm sending you lots of love and lots of healing, because if you're listening to this, you're either thinking about it or you've understood this process because you've been through this process before. Sending you love and healing.